So as you start in your calisthenics journey, you'll find that if you want to continue doing your workout, you may need some sort of assistance, because it's not the same as going to the gym where once you're fatigued with the 45-pound dumbbells, you can drop down to 35 or you can drop down to 25. Once you're fatigued with pull-ups, say you're on your 10th or 20th pull-up and you feel like you can't pull anymore, that's when you can start using assistance, because you don't just want to stop working out in calisthenics. You want to continue trying to get some sort of volume so you can start building muscle. And if you don't have a lower bar to start practicing, like let's say if you can't do enough pull-ups and you don't have a low bar to do Australian pull-ups, what you can do is you grab a band. And so now we're going to talk about band theory. So in calisthenics, the elastic bands really only serve two purposes. They can give you assistance or they can give you resistance. And so for assistance, for example, if you're doing a warm-up, you can get a really thin band, you wrap it around any post, and you can start warming up your elbows for a lot of the more intensive exercises like planche, handstand, press, handstand planche, any of those. Or if you're starting to get into front levers, you want to start warming up your elbows. And the way that you could do that without even having to do any sort of calisthenics warm-up is with the bands, on a light enough band, one where you can get full range of motion and really activate your elbows. So that's one form of resistance. But if you want to use it for assistance, back to the example where if you can't do any more pull-ups, what you can do is you throw a band up top, you feed your foot through, and then you can go right back into doing pull-ups. But because you have the band, you shouldn't just continue to try to rep them out, or you would never want to sacrifice reps for form. You don't want to continue doing bad form. You want to just stop and reset, maybe take a breather, or use a thicker band if this is too light. But what you would do is you also want, when you're squeezing, you want to feel as if you're doing the regular exercise that you went out to seek the band's assistance for. So if I'm doing a pull-up, for example, I want to still squeeze everything and try to activate everything that I would if I didn't have the band. And so that's one form of assistance that it can give you. It can also give you some assistance for the muscle up. If you want to know how to use resistance band for muscle up, you throw it up there. You want to pretend that there's a circle right in front of you, a target or a bullseye. You put on the band, and when you stretch, you want to stretch so that the elastic band is as straight as possible, so that way you can get that as much bounce back as possible. So when you squeeze, you want to work on this entrance. Really focus on extending, so that way you can really snap back. Because if you're going to use the band, it's going to be able to assist you on the snapback that maybe you haven't developed your lats for. So then using it in full motion, if you want to use the resistance band in full-fledged, you want to stretch and then help it swing you all the way over. So you're going to see, I'm going to extend with one foot, and that's one form of assistance. Another form of resistance, if you want, you could use it for, let's say, planche push-ups. You come around the top, put it over behind your back, and you can do scapula protractions and retraction. So there's no right or wrong way to use bands. There's a lot of people who, when they're using it for front lever, they may use, let's say they're using a band. There's several ways that I've seen people use the bands for front levers. This is one of them, where you put it on like a hula hoop, like this. You throw it over the bar, you step on it like the same way you do for like the muscle up, and then you lean back. Another way that I've seen people use it, this is usually the other way that other people use it, is they throw it over like this, and then you lean back. ultimately, whatever you're trying to get an exercise with, you can also use the bands just for like stretching out in the quads. If you're trying to get some quad work, it's giving you some resistance as if it was a actual squat press, but maybe you don't want to carry around that weight. And so that would help you build up for things like the pistol squat. The pistol squat, the motherfucking pistol squat. That shit would get you right. But yeah, so as far as band theory goes, that's what you need to know. Like, there's no right or wrong way to use bands. I would say if you're going to invest in bands, get the ones that have 4 different weight levels. Usually there's one like 15 pounds, one that's 25, one that's 45, one that's 50. Try to get a variety, because you'll find that in different bands. For example, this band would give me far more assistance to the front lever than this band. And then the same goes for this band. So I'll show you how each one would work. Then this one. This one's gonna give me even more resistance. So usually whenever you're going up and it's becoming easier, that's when you wanna focus really on the form. And then lastly, this one's gonna give me way more assistance because it's so much thicker. It's able to grab more of my back. The elasticity is a little bit tighter. So then when I get into it, oh, it's easy, too easy. But the great thing is that just because it's helping you too much, it can also be that you use it as a warm-up. So if you're gonna work on front levers that day, you use a really thick one to just go over the form before you start doing it with no bands. So that's one way you should structure your calisthenics training, is you do the most intensive thing at the beginning after a really good warm-up, and then you try to hit it with bands, so that way you work on the form. And then lastly, you work on accessories, and you just do all the finishing touches, because by then you're too tired. Imagine you would have go straight into the gym and you start doing your 1 rep max. Maybe it's 350 pounds on the bench press. If you're just doing it cold, not warming up, you're gonna get hurt. So that's the same thing with calisthenics. If you're getting into a lot of these intense moves without any warm up, without rolling your wrists, rolling your shoulders, doing jumping jacks, high kicks, kicking your butt, and even with the bands, just doing things with like stretching with them, using them any way that you can. Just because you're holding on to two sides, you can just grab one, and it makes a little bit less elasticity. So there's so many ways that you can play around with bands. There's just no right or wrong way to do it. But that's the thing with calisthenics, is that when you're doing these 1 rep max moves, you don't want to be doing that 5 times a week, because that's like hitting your 1 rep max in power snatches every fucking day. You can get hurt that way. So you want to just work on form, work on lighter weight. And the way you make things more intensive in calisthenics is not the same way that you make things more intensive in the gym. In the gym, you want to make something more intensive, you pick up more weight. In calisthenics, you want to make something more intensive, you change your leverage, you change the angle. You use gravity as your personal assistant. You say, you're gonna help me get shredded, gravity, because it's fucking free. Whereas in the gym, you have to pay for the fucking gym. Then you have all these people just going in there just to like watch other people. You got old creepy Joes in there. But calisthenics, it's genuinely a meditation ceremony, because you have to be engaged with everything. So that's it for the band theory.